In this tutorial, we're going to talk about how to record audio within Ableton Live. I'm going to give you a real-life example in just a moment, but first let's learn how to set up each track. What I've done is I've created two audio tracks here, of course by inserting the audio track, and then in my live preferences I've made sure that my input device, my M-Audio Firewire 410 input, has been chosen, and that in the input configuration all of my inputs are chosen. Of course you can use whatever interface that you would like. And over in my I/O here I've chosen input 1. Okay, so input 1 is where I've placed the input from my violin, which I'm going to play in just a few moments. So each one of these tracks is ready to go. Now the only other thing that I could possibly work with is the delay compensation. So seeing that I have some reverb on a return track here and I'm sending the violin sound to the reverb, I might experience some delay. So in that case I can bring up my delay compensation, and Live does this naturally. It has some built-in delay compensation, but if it needs a little bit more, you can go ahead and bring this track delay down to whatever sort of pre-roll that you want it to. Of course it's not going to predict when you're going to play audio, but it will help out and give your latency a minute offset. So now I'd like to show you the use of this lovely foot controller. It's called the POC. It's made by X-Tempo Designs. It's a wireless foot controller that's keyboard mappable. So it maps to your QWERTY keyboard. There's no MIDI. It's a fantastic little device. I absolutely love it. It's very lightweight. I can carry it with me wherever I go in my backpack. So let's go through and look at how to set this up in Ableton. As you know, there's also the MIDI mappable function here. And then if I turn this guy off, this is for if you want to use your keyboard as a MIDI controller and use it to play piano sounds or keyboard sounds, whatever the like. You can also turn this keyboard map button on, and everything here in orange can be mapped to a key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the POC editor, and as you can see I've already got some things set up. So this is if I was playing with 4 tracks here. So I've got ARM track 1, which is the letter Q, and then I've got stop track 1, which is the letter Z, and then I've got start track 1, which is the letter A. So let's go back over to Ableton, turn on my key map. The shortcut for that is Command or Apple or Control K, and I've got my Q mapped to record, and stop was Z, so I'm going to go ahead and map my stop button here to Z, and then play was A. And so the next one over, I'm going to just do one letter over from that. So instead of Z, it's going to be X. Instead of A, it's going to be S, and then instead of Q, it's going to be W. So as well, I've got my scene down set up to be my down arrow, so that's automatically set up so I can flow through the scenes and do different things, as well as my effects chain. So if I have my effects chain as L, I can go ahead and turn on and off my reverb here with the letter L. And what other effects that you have going on. This is just a very basic example, but of course you can have as many effects as you want. So let's go ahead and test this out and try to record some audio into Ableton using the POC controller. Okay, now we're going to get working with the POC and actually do some recording. Let's look at how this works real quick. As you can see, I've got some effects over here on the return track, and I'm always going to have my reverb on because violin sounds excellent with reverb. It sounds not so good without it. And then I have another chain of effects here which I can turn on and off with my foot controller. And as well, I'm going to arm the track and record on these audio tracks my violin. So let's take a look at how this works real quick. I'm going to, since I showed you my POC editor, I showed you ARM, start and stop, and then I've got effects chain 1 and scene down. So let's take a look at how that works. If I function press on the POC controller, Let's go ahead and try this. It arms the track, and then if I press it again, it'll record and then play. So let's go ahead and record the violin and turn on and off these effects with the POC controller. So now, as you can see, I've recorded several pieces of audio with my violin here. If I look inside, I can see there's some audio recorded, and I turned on and off the effects chain here where I can tweak out in real time and basically control with my MIDI controllers or what have you. So we're going to work on talking about MIDI control in just a little bit, and that's really exciting, especially when you're tweaking out instruments and effects going with the instruments.